Hey there! Thank you for tuning in to Chats with Hannah. Today we're going to be talking about handwriting. And for this, I have with me Dhwani Shah. She's an occupational therapist with a lot of experience in this area. She has her own center in Malad called the Therapy Terminal. And we're so glad to have you with us, Dhwani. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, Hannah.
So, I've written a blog on this topic, the handwriting skills, that you can
Hmm.
check out by logging on to www.theplaydatecommunity.com and head over to the blog section. Today, we'll be discussing more about the practicalities of handwriting, and especially in the age group, 2 to 5 year olds. So let's begin. Yeah. So, Dhwani, my first question to you is, um, there are so many schools of thoughts when it comes to handwriting. Like in school, sometimes we see even in playgroup where it's focused on, that they have to write alphabets, or in some schools of thought it is way when the kids are way older, like 5 or 6 years old. So
Correct.
what according to you is developmentally appropriate? Like when is it developmentally appropriate for a kid to start writing alphabets?
Okay, so ideally, many of the doctors and pediatricians recommend that by the age of 3, a child should start writing with pencil and they should start having that correct grip. They should begin to start having that correct grip by the age of 3. But at the same time, I equally feel the child should be skill appropriate also for that. So they should also have good amount of skills, good amount of strength in their fingers to hold that pencil or a crayon in a correct way. So both the things really matter, that the child should be ready as per the skill point of view as per the age also, to hold that pencil or crayon properly. Because if there's no skill, if there's no strength in the child's finger, then they won't be able to hold that pencil or crayon in a correct way, and then they'll develop that inappropriate grip. So it's not just the age that is going to be a criteria for the child to be ready to start writing with a pencil or a crayon or start coloring, but it's also the skill that is equally important. It's a combination of both that I feel it's important, that which is important for the child, to start learning to write and to start learning to color with a pencil or a crayon. Yes, that is what I think is important.
Yeah, and I think that is so crucial, right? Because each child, like, they are very different in their development. Not all children finish that at the age of 3, right? Some may take
Correct.
longer because they're
Correct.
developing other skills as well, right?
Yes.
So, when would you say is a child ready to go from a crayon to a pencil? Because the whole idea of a pencil is usually it's longer, so they have to know where to correctly hold it and stuff, right?
Hold it.
And also it's thinner
Yeah.
than a crayon. So
Yeah.
when do you think is the right point that they transition?
Okay, so when I feel that their grip on crayon is perfect, they have good amount of pressure when they're coloring, or they are able to stay within boundaries when they're coloring. They are able to, distinguish perceptually also where they are supposed to stay on the line, and all these things come up. Then we can start with pencil, because when they are writing with pencil, we even expect them to start learning the formations of the letters and all. Yeah, so I think when these all things come up, then I would ideally transfer from a crayon to a pencil for a child.
Okay. So it doesn't have to happen very quickly, right? Like the child can begin
No.
writing alphabets with a crayon first rather than a pencil.
Yes, yes, and rather, I would really recommend using more of non-pencil related activities to start off teaching letters for kids. Like it could be by using paints, it could be while using the rainbow rice, or it could be by using more of sensory-based activities where they're just not using pencil and learning how to write letters. It could be making those letters with play-dohs. So these activities, encourage in your fine motor skills, also helps in developing good amount of finger skills also. And then you transition teaching them writing with the pencil. So I think more of sensory ways to teach them letters is good to begin with.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful because sometimes we just want our kids to like move ahead and be like there, but they're not yet ready. And there are so many other ways that you
Ready.
can make them ready
Make
before.
them,
Yeah.
yes, learn that thing, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So my third question is like, what are some of the activities or exercises that you would recommend for a preschooler, like a 3 to 5 year old, as they develop handwriting skills?
Correct. So very first and important thing that I ideally recommend to all my parents is to make them independent as much as possible in their activities of daily living. So once they are doing those things of their own independently, maybe they are, tying their, wearing their footwear or putting up their pants, trying to push their buttons in or eating with spoon and fork, all these things helps in encouraging the fine motor skills unknowingly. So I ideally recommend to start up with that rather than directly jumping onto activities or anything else. So at least make them start letting them do their things independently as much as possible from as young as they are. So when they are, brushing their teeth, they're having good grip on their brush, or when they are pushing those buttons, push buttons inside. So all these things are encouraging their finger movements in different ways. So this is the first thing I recommend to all my parents in letting them do as much as possible their things independently. Second thing, there are many activities that they can do is there are pom poms, playing with pom poms, using the clips available at home to making them do hanging of their wet clothes on the clothes line. Or maybe they can play with the piggy bank and the coins. Use play-doh to encourage the finger movements, in strengthening the finger movements, hiding small things in the play-doh and letting them find them. So this is what I usually encourage. Then there are many games and toys also available, like those nuts and bolts or links available. So all these small toys, games also helps in encouraging the child's fine motor movements, works on their fingers, is a good finger gym for them. Apart from that, I think, yeah, so when maybe the mother is cooking in the kitchen, so the mother can give them some dough, roti dough, and ask them to, make small balls, and the child can do that simultaneously. Or peeling off the vegetables, the green peas, coriander leaves, taking them out. So getting them involved in your routines will be enough, to encourage and stimulate their skills, to stimulate various finger movements and all. So that will be more than enough, and you don't have to take out any extra time, or you don't have to do anything very specially for them. Yeah, so these are things I ideally recommend to my parents for their fine motor exercises and finger exercises. Yeah.
Thank you. So, do you have any recommendations for tools or devices or books? Because I know that parents are really searching for them and they find like,
Mhm.
these grippers that they hold the pencil with,
Correct.
or they're looking for different books, like what kind of books will help their kids with the formations and all of that, right? So, do you have some
Mhm.
recommendations for parents who are looking for those kind of things?
Yeah. So ideally, I am following the learning without tears protocol with all my kids, and initially it was also known as handwriting without tears. So they have a good set of books with them for all the age group, or starting with the preschoolers. And I really love their method, the step-by-step method they go with, like initially starting with the frog jump letters, then the magic C letters. So I follow that method, and it has really worked well with all my kids. So I use that book. They even have different set of games and materials, like they have the wooden blocks, they have their slates on their slates. They have those demarcations by the lines. They have smileys to give visual cues for the child that where are they supposed to start with. So there are a good amount of stuff available on the website also that parents can check out. I usually follow that method with my kids. Apart from that, if we are speaking from tool point of view, I even recommend using small pencils are really good tools for kids to start up with. So small crayons will really help in encouraging those small intrinsic muscles in your hand, because they have to stay with it. So those they'll distinguish the movements in the fingers of the child. So that's good for a child to start up with rather than giving them bigger crayons or bigger pencils to start up with. And I have a gripper also, which I use with kids who have inappropriate grip to correct their grip, which I can share the link with you, and then maybe you can post it in the comment section below.
Sure.
From Amazon, I usually buy it, and it's really been beneficial for most of my kids, and it's a good one, so I can share the link with you.
Yeah, I think that will be helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
When any child is beginning to learn, there are different like teething phases where they are struggling. But when would you suggest that they need to, like the parents need to take those concerns seriously and approach an occupational therapist for help?
Okay, so most of my recommendations have been coming from school. Teachers are the one who notice kids that there is some difficulty in the writing area. So they are not appropriately age appropriate with kids of their age. They are slow in writing. Most of the time, they're not able to cope up with the speed while writing. They frequently complain about the finger pain while writing. Even after writing very little, they complain that their fingers are paining and they're not able to write anymore. Or maybe their writing is not legible. They are trying to write too fast to cope up with the kids in the school, so then it's not legible. There's no proper spacing between, or the size of the letters are not correct. So when I see all these concerns, I feel that yes, there is definitely some difficulty there in that area, and they do need OT. Yeah. So this is these are some of the pointers which I feel that when they are lagging behind and they're not able to cope up with kids of their age in school, then they do need OT. And even when there are difficulties with fine motor skill, like for example, they are not having good scissor skills, they are not able to cut on the line, or they are not able to do their basic lacing or the buttoning part, or there's a difficulty with motor planning of those parts. So all that also affects, because then there could be concerns of learning disability, there could be concerns of praxis, and that affects your writing and all. So I check it out on both ways, and then I come to know that yes, this child may have concern with writing issues, and they may need OT. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very helpful thing that you've brought up because sometimes handwriting can actually be a diagnostic to what is the actual concern, right? Because it may present as handwriting, but there's so many underlying things.
Yes, and even one more thing I feel, sorry to interrupt, even the gross motor area of the child, like if the child is not having good amount of core strength, their proximal stability is affected, or their body awareness is affected, and if they don't have a good posture to sit for long enough, that also affects, which I have noticed in most of my kids, that also affects their writing. Because if they don't have proximal stability in their arms and all, they won't be able to maintain that posture. If their core strength is not good enough, they won't be able to sit for so long. Their body tone and everything plays an important role in, enhancing the handwriting skill of the child. So all this also matters. And if this is also affected, then there can be a handwriting concern for sure.
Yeah. I think those are really helpful tools. In my blog as well, I've mentioned especially for like the really younger kids, for parents to really focus on tummy time and floor time, because that's the place where their core is really developing, right? And we really need that for a skill later on, right? So it has a multifold. But even if kids have an issue later on in life, there's always an exercise that they can do, right, to work on those areas.
Yes, definitely. So there are many other, like we see the functional training and all going on for kids these days and all. So we can work accordingly. There are sensory gyms that we have. Our OT clinics help out with the sensory part and all. So all that helps in enhancing the overall development of the child. So sensory integration therapy that we provide to them obviously works on strengthening of the core, increasing their body tone, body awareness, increasing their body tone and all. So yes, there are things available later on. Even if you missed it out in the early years, things can be done later on too. So it's not late.
That's good to know. Yeah. Okay. So, Dhwani, would you like to share with us a funny story of just your encounter with any of these different difficulties that you've sort of helped with?
Okay. Okay. So funny stories, as in, there's nothing as particular with any one kid, but I would just share like how I do things with my kids or how my program goes with them when I do handwriting and all. So I try and use more fun way method rather than making them sit and learn the rote way, the old school way of just copying and writing or anything. So I try and use funny stories with them, like, for example, if I'm making them teach the spacing between the letters or the words. So I usually tell them the noodle and the Manchurian story. So when there is when you're writing two words, so between those two words you should have a space of a Manchurian. There should be a Manchurian that should be able to fit in between. Or when they're writing a spelling or a word, so between each letter there should be only a space of a noodle. So I try and make it funny in that way with kids. And yeah, so then there's a helper hand that's always there. So whenever we are doing any task or activity, we ideally use our left hand or maybe the non-dominant hand as a helper hand. So I make that helper hand, and kids really find all these little things very funny, and they have fun. And then they are more motivated and encouraged to. So I would recommend to all the parents and teachers over there that try and make things more funny and add stories and little things and be more creative with what you're doing. And kids will really enjoy it, and they will learn and pick up things faster. Yeah. And yeah, so this is what I usually do with my kids. I try and make things very fun for them in general. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. I feel like a lot of things that we remember are, fun things that we've encountered that not boring. That's really cool. That's a very good tip for parents and including myself to remember to make
Mm.
things funny and spice it up a little bit. Thank you so much, Dhwani, for doing this. I think these topics are really, and just what you've shared is so insightful. And we'll possibly do another one maybe when we get more questions in. Would you have some closing comments before we end?
Okay. So yeah. Ideally, as I have mentioned it earlier also, that try and keep things fun and creative with kids because they learn faster and better. Whenever you're doing any kind of exercises, games, or you're playing with them, try and be innovative in that. Use different tools and modalities to teach them same thing, even if you're teaching them just letters or words or whatever it is. Don't be repetitive with it. And one more thing that I've not mentioned earlier, but just came in my mind is that, you can try and have two, three kids around, even when you're doing things at home. Because when kids are learning in group, they're always looking and observing at that other child, and they're picking up things. Even if they're not doing it, they're at least looking and learning. So when they're sitting and doing some game or activities or doing some writing or playing with the pen, if there are two, three kids, then they'll really learn better. So try and get a child from your neighborhood or some child of your friend, or they can sit with their siblings and do it. So doing things in group has really been beneficial, and that is what I've noticed from my past experience also. I've missed this point, so it just came in my mind. So I just thought I'd share it with you. Yeah, so this is a general thing. Just be fun and creative with your child. Yes.
Thank you for tuning in with us today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me, Hannah. It was really great. It was amazing.